Today, I'm going to be teaching you one of the most important card techniques you can learn in card magic. And this is card palming. So in this video, I'll give you a detailed step-by-step on how to secretly palm a card with one hand. And if you want to take it to the next level, in the bonus section, I'll show you how to do it surrounded, as well as sharing pro tips to easily implement card palming into your magic repertoire. So if this sounds good to you, grab your deck of cards, sit down, and let's get into it. So in order for us to understand how to palm a card with one hand, what I'm going to do is to break down this tutorial in three main parts. And the first part is going to talk about the mechanics of it, how we are going to palm a card, mechanically speaking. And then moving on to the second part will be on when and which actions we are going to go through in order for us to conceal the moment that the card is being palmed. And lastly, and also very important, is on how we hold the card palm in our hands in a natural way so it doesn't arise any suspicion. In order for us to start to palm a card, first we're going to start by grabbing the deck in this position like this. This is a modification of the original grip known as edge grip. This looks more like a clump. Yeah, we can call it a clump grip maybe, just for make it easier for us as a reference. Before we start to get the pull motion and the pivot point that we'll create with the tip of our pinky finger, what we have to understand is how to hold the cards in a way that will allow the top card to be free at the moment we pull the card with the pinky. So to do that, we have to understand that just at the moment we are gonna palm the card, we need to free this by curving or curling our fingers like this, more as a clump. Yeah, so we can allow the card to be free and then bend and stay into our palm like this. Because if I don't curve them, you will see that it will be harder. And as you can see, the thumb is kind of a stopper here. It's blocking the way. So the only way for me to get this corner free is just by, you know, curling the thumb here. And now I can bend with the pinky. So once we understand how to get this exact moment of loose grip or curving the fingers so the card can get free, now we can focus on the pinky one, which, as I said, has a very crucial role. And for learning purposes, what I'm going to do now is maybe better to show you with an Omni deck, so you can see what is going on, probably on other angle. That with the deck, of course, will be harder. So what we're doing now here is to see how our pinky is going to first pull forward and then push upwards so the card can get palmed like this. So first, what we're going to do is to gently push the card forward. So we start unconsciously to pivot because we have the index here as a pivot point that will be kind of fixed. So we're making it pivot like this by pushing it forward. And once it's free, and remember, because we're somehow curling our fingers, especially the thumb, now it's the moment to push the card down like this, so it naturally gets pushed here in our palm like this. So just from another angle, if this will be like the bottom of the packet, what we're doing is with the pinky, push forward, and now bend it so it can get palmed automatically like this. Something that will happen a lot if this is the first time you get into this move is that you will get the card probably like this. The angle will not be proper and it will be just palmed in a way that it will be visible from the other side. This, it's expected, it's okay, because you have to understand which is the exact pivot point that will work for your hand size for the card to be palmed exactly and concealed like this in your palm. Here is one of those moments in any of the tutorials you see from me. It doesn't matter how much information I give you. This is more kind of a muscle memory practice you have to go through. Understand how to position to create the perfect pivot point to rotate the card in the angle that it will be palmed like this. That will be the muscle memory you start to build, so you can do it consistently and palm it without, you know, showing it to the other side. So here I recommend you to get with the deck and just start to understand how to pull the card forward, get it free from here, so when you bend it, you get it exactly by the edge of your palm, so it will not be showing. And I can tell you by the experience that this is a technique that once you learn like a double lift or like the way you toss a card, whatever, it gets automatic, so you don't even have to think about it. So here, practice is the key. So once you learn the mechanics of it and how to actually start to get the card bended and pushed into your palm, here is an exercise I would highly recommend you to go through, so you will learn it super fast. And this, it's a very interesting exercise because this was taught by Joan Bernat, who was a great magician at his time. He actually was a FISM winner, one of the first FISM winners in Spain, if I'm not mistaken. And this exercise was suggested to Joan Herrera, who is actually my mentor in magic, and he was the one years ago suggesting me that exercise that I'm about to teach you. And this is just basically taking two cards as one in a level lift, let's say, and from here start to practice the palming with two cards. I can assure you that once you're able to palm one card from two like this, you're ready to palm anything. This, from my point of view, the clearest signal that your palming is already perfect if you are able to do this consistently. And to do it, you only have to consider that because you don't have the whole deck, you will tend to curve the cards even more to get at least the top one free. So since here there's only two cards, it starts to get tricky the moment we pull it. So this will be very good for us to understand how to get the pulling motion in the best way possible. So again, from here you get the double and you start to, in a mindless way, whenever you're watching TV, movie, or doing something else, just get two cards and try to get familiar and build the muscle memory needed. So now that we got familiar with the mechanics of it, it's time to understand when and how to perform the palming in order to be concealed, to don't be visible for the audience. And here the timing is crucial. As most of these techniques that are kind of angle sensitive, it's always recommended to perform them in a moment where the tension or where there's somehow relaxation, where the main focus is not on your hands or on the deck, it's somewhere else. You can just create it by yourself when you're explaining something, or you opening a gesture, or relax your body language. And here, something I would recommend you is always try to palm it with bigger moves. Because the problem I have with this technique is that the pinky does this micro movement that, depending on when you do it, I think is quite visible and is telegraphing that you're doing something with it. So considering that, something I recommend you is to always try to palm not only offbeat moments, but also with bigger movements, because the big move, and this is an old principle in magic, the big move normally conceals the small one. And something I personally do a lot is to palm a card like this. I just leave the deck, and as you can see, we have a bigger move, which is my arm moving the deck from one side to the other. And while I'm moving it and creating the angle to cover it, because if I perform it like this, it's still kind of visible. Doesn't matter how big, I should do it fast, which this is what I want to avoid. So what I'm doing is to create this bigger move. And at the moment that I get the angle that I know it's covered, then leave it like this. And I even just do an additional move to make this micro gesture even smaller, so it's not as perceived as if I would do it without it. Look what happens if I do it without the move. You see, it's kind of visible. Doesn't matter if there's a lot of misdirection, if there's not attention on it. It's kind of perceptible in a white image. So that's what I want to do, is first create a relaxation moment or a misdirection by my gestures or by the things I'm saying. So whenever I'm getting into it, it just gets concealed. Of course, it's not perfect, because if you're surrounded, this could still be visible, but we're gonna work on that at the bonus section, where I'll be sharing with you the way I do it in order for me to make it surrounded, so it's not as perceived. Another way you can palm a card is while turning the deck around like this. As you may saw on my performances, turning the deck around like this is something I do quite often. So it's kind of a natural gesture on me, so it will not arise any suspicion whenever I'm doing it. Of course, if I do it a lot of times, it's kind of weird, but there's certain moments where I just take this to square the deck, and this for me, it's a perfect moment where I can just perform the palming. Whenever I get the deck back, I can just square it like this, and now palm it and leave it here, maybe, or maybe just palm it and hold it like this. So here the key is not about the speed, it's about the exact moment you do it. And what I recommend you is to just do it at almost before you're about to turn the deck around. If you do it a bit later, it is kind of visible still. And you also have to angle the hand properly, so whenever you're performing it, it's not as visible. So if you practice this on a mirror, you will see what is the exact moment you should perform it, and with the tempo, so you can make sure that it will not be visible. Now you'll see me, my hand in an awkward positions, because we're not talking about how to hold it or what to do after we palm a card, but this is something we're gonna cover now in a minute. But for now, I want you to understand that in order for us to palm, first we need to get all the tension of whatever we're doing like as low as possible, so nobody's paying as much attention to what we're doing with our hands, and try to open our gesture so we can just make a big move, perform a small one, which is palming, and then we can steal it and continue doing what we have to do with it. Another moment that is good for us to perform palming is by having a deck that is not as squared as this, and now readjusting it. And by doing so, we are just creating the perfect excuse for us to palm it like this. Yeah, of course, it doesn't have to be as shaky as I did it now, but in a natural speed, it will be something like this. We have it like this, we're squaring it up, and now, as you can see, I have it already palmed here. I can repeat it again for you to see it. We just have a deck that is not as squared, and now we're gonna readjust it. And these gestures are justified because this is normally what people do or what we do when we want to readjust or square back a deck. So now that we know how and when to palm a car, it's time to talk about what should we do once it's palmed. Because here there's two potential scenarios. The first one is when you palm a card and you give the deck to a spectator or just put it somewhere that is not reachable at the time, or you have to do something else with it. And the other one is when you just have the deck with you, you're just handling it, and it's a perfect excuse for us to hold the palm by holding the deck like this. So focusing first on the part, and I think it's the most important, without the deck, here we have to work on how to make our hand look natural and loose. As Kanye suggested on his work, the perfect palming is the one that is secure enough so you can move your hand around and it will not fall off, but loose enough so whenever this is just a small tip, it will just fall off like this. This is not a practical example or realistic one, but it's, let's say, the reference we should aim to. Because if we have a stiff palming, it is noticeable. We are signaling that there's something going on with this hand. So we need to get our hand relaxed enough, as if it will be also a classic palm with a coin. So relax enough so the hand will show as natural as possible. Palming a car is not natural at all, but we should aim at least to get us closer to what a hand without a car would look like, which should look something like this. So we need to get closer to that. And an exercise I would recommend you is to palm a car whenever you have a chance, you know, while doing something around your house or doing anything else, and try to just move the hand around with the calm palm and try to switch the holding position from the pinky to the index like this. This in the future will be beneficial because whenever you are not palming the card correctly or you need to readjust it, this will allow you to understand just by muscle memory how to readjust and position it correctly. So I recommend you to move around and just try to practice and try to make your hand as smooth and wavy as possible whenever you palm a card. Something I do here, and I will suggest maybe later on the bonus section in more detail, is that, for example, things you can do when we palm a card and we give the deck to the spectator is just, for example, just give it away and ask for shuffling. The fact that we are just asking for shuffling like this, it already tells them what's the action you want them to do, but also giving this sensation of like having your hands loose. It's important that we don't have the hand static, that it will stay like this. It's important that we move it around. So this is the perfect excuse for us, like, oh, please shuffle it for me. And then we can just go into resting position. Or we can just, you know, go to the pocket or do something else different that will give this emptiness that we always try to project. This is one of the things I would suggest you to do if you are doing it standing up or doing it in this scenario. Something else we can do is to just hold it. We can just cross arms. We can just have it like this. Here, there's plenty of options that I recommend you and I want you to explore because the sky is the limit here. You can explore as much as possible because for somebody else body language this will be more natural, for some other people will be other type of gestures. Try to keep the symmetry in the way that both hands look. And if you are talking and doing gestures with your hands and you have a card palm, try to make sure that the other hand is mimicking the same positioning and the same postures, because if this one is expressing in a super free way with no worries about it and so on, this will start to look suspicious. So it's important that whenever we talk, we just try to, you know, try to mimic, try to work on having this symmetry that will make this hand not to call as much attention. Then we can just recover it and incorporate it and continue with whatever we wanted to do. Now the second scenario is when we have the deck with us. And here we're gonna talk about the end grip I already mentioned in the beginning. So whenever we palm a card because maybe we're squaring it up or we're just leaving back and then recovering it, here I will always recommend to palm a card in this end grip right here. Because look at the difference whenever we palm a card with the end grip with the index like this, than when we do it like this. The idea that we have a card palm in our hand in this position is easier than if we have it like this, because here we are showing emptiness, which is already projected in the mind of the spectator as the whole image that they cannot see. So if you're holding a parked car in this position, I always recommend you to hold it in this end grip with the index curled like this. Additionally, another way I recommend you to hold a palm card is by using the edges of the table. I know this maybe from natural point of view, people do not do as much. We magicians do a lot, of course, but here, as I said in many other tutorials, it's important for us to naturalize those type of moves in us, because there's many things we do like a double lift or holding cards in certain ways that are not natural at all, but because we are practicing and incorporating it in our body language, this will start to look natural. So I recommend you to explore the edges, try to maybe wash the mat or just go from up to down to then to the edges and then back to the deck. So you can explore whatever routine or body language suits best this purpose of giving this naturalness that you will always want to project. So it doesn't matter if you're standing up or if you're on a table, you always have resources to make sure that this hand is as natural as possible and people will never suspect that you're palming a card. I hope so far you're enjoying and learning a lot from this tutorial. If you're right till this point of the video, it's probably because you're seriously interested on learning magic and improving it. That's why I would like to share with you that I opened a membership in this channel where I'll be posting some of my exclusive content tutorials that will never be publicly available. There you'll find tutorials that I'm currently selling across the biggest magic platforms in the world, as well as performances that I do at the castle and other exclusive places where you can get inspired by my style, the mistakes I do, and the little things that are happening in live performances, and also full lectures where you can learn all the details and things that I only teach at the lectures. And if you're interested to learn magic or improve it in a more personal and direct way with me, you can also have access to my consultancy sessions where you and I can just talk face to face and see how I can help you to improve and get more creative with the magic you're doing. And now, with that being said, let's move on to the bonus section. So in this bonus section, we're gonna deep dive into what we're doing once the card's palmed, so we can incorporate it into our magic repertoire, and some of the tips that help me to incorporate card palming in a natural and very smooth way. Getting focused now on what we do whenever we palm a card. Here, for magic tricks, for example, one of the easiest that you can implement right away is on controlling a card. So for example, we're gonna give a card to choose. In this case, it would be the Queen of Hearts. Then we just control it to the top of the deck. And what's control, we just generate the excuse like, oh, by the way, please shuffle. So in this way, we are getting the Queen of Hearts, this is the chosen card with us, and whenever they give it back, we reincorporate it. So we have now a freely shuffled deck with the card that was chosen on the top. So this will be a great addition already, and it's relatively easy. And the other use that it's by far my favorite and my go-to is to palm and then produce a card. So basically what I'm doing is like this, and it doesn't take as much time. It's just probably 1 second where my hand goes loosely to a specific position and then produce a card. If you're interested about this production, this is my personal one. I developed it and I use it a lot in my professional repertoire, and I'm planning to make a tutorial about it. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure you'll be subscribed because I will soon publish it. But now getting into the surrounded part. Even though the angles are not perfect, there's ways in which we can somehow avoid people to see it. And for example, you can see it also on my performance at the Magic Castle that I palm cards and I have somebody here, which is the, let's say, the bat angle. And the ways I implement that is basically by enhancing my gestures, by making it bigger. So whenever they come to whatever I need, these will be smooth first and also as much invisible as possible. Of course, it does not disappear. There will always this angles sensibility, it's impossible to remove, but we can also use our misdirection and the way we interact with our audience to make those areas not as important or as relevant. So for example, if I have somebody here and I need to palm the card, so then produce it from the box or produce it in the thin air, something I would do is maybe first doing like this, like a big gesture to address this area or this part of the audience. And then whenever I'm gonna palm, I'm gonna shift my look and my body towards the person I have here. So it's inevitably almost impossible that that person will not look at me, at my eyes, whenever I'm addressing him, because it feels like I'm addressing him, but I'm somehow doing kind of a fan effect where I'm speaking to everybody and going from right to left. So what we do, for example, in a real situation will be, okay, so now I'm gonna go for the last, which is by far the best. So you can see, I already address him, make that microsecond invisible for him because he will be looking at me if I'm doing things correctly. And then once it's palm, just get into a resting position because everything now is done. So doesn't matter, the person will not see it because it's well covered by our hand like this. But here I will just be on the edge of the table resting until the moment comes where I maybe produce it from the box. It's a production from Danny the artist that I do also a lot. Or maybe I can just go to my hands like this and perform it like that, or do something that is flashy, fast. Of course, for that person it's not as magical, but for the rest is very visual. So it's a kind of a price to pay for this, a small one from my point of view. These are the strategies I implement whenever I perform this kind of techniques surrounded. So lastly, I would like to close this bonus section by sharing with you the way I would recommend you to implement the card palming into your magic routines. I know it is a very bold technique that it will force your body to get stiff or to just signal things that don't look as natural or as good from my point of view. So I would always recommend you that try to palm whenever you can. Doesn't matter if it's needed or not. For example, if you are starting magic on a table, just give the deck for shuffling and you can just maybe go to your pocket and leave it there, but you already palmed in front of people. So you will start to get your body to don't feel guilty whenever you palm a card, and you can just naturally start to work this muscle memory that will make your brain to get familiar, so it will start to get natural on you. It will not be detected as oh, I'm lying or they're gonna catch me. For you, it's just, you know, you're gonna start a trick that does not need any palming or something like this, but you already palm, and you can just maybe go put it in your pocket or do something else with it. Or if you want to take this exercise seriously, you can just take it back, square it, and continue with the effect, maybe by choosing a card or whatever the effect requires you to do next. So try to palm as much as possible, even if it's not needed, and you will see that you will start to implement this and naturalize it in a super fast way. So that was a tutorial. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. And if so, please don't forget to give me a like. This will help me a lot. And if you like this type of tutorials, consider subscribing, as I'll be uploading many of them in the future that will cover from the basic to intermediate to more advanced, so everybody will have a tutorial according to their level. And now if you want to keep learning with me and let you hear these super cool tutorials that I'm sure you will enjoy, thank you so much for watching this tutorial till the end. I hope to see you in the next one.